It was just after 11 p.m. The cold had teeth. The street was deserted except for the occasional whoosh of passing cars. Daniel's boots crunched on the frostbitten pavement as he pulled his thin denim jacket tighter around his shoulders. His fingers were already numb from delivering food on foot all evening. Still, he'd earned enough tips to buy breakfast for his son tomorrow, and that was all that mattered. That's when he saw her. She was crouched near a bus stop shelter, arms wrapped around herself, knees pulled to her chest, trembling like a leaf caught in a winter storm. No coat, no gloves, just a silk blouse, a torn pencil skirt, and heels that had no place on a street like this. Daniel didn't even hesitate. He walked over, unzipping his jacket. "Hey, you okay?" he asked gently, crouching beside her. The woman flinched but didn't look up. Her lips were blue, her hair drenched from earlier rain, mascara smudged under both eyes. "Don't touch me," she muttered, voice hoarse. "I'm not going to hurt you." "Here." Daniel took off his jacket and placed it around her shoulders. "You'll freeze to death like this." She blinked, then finally looked up. Emerald green eyes. Dazed. But underneath the exhaustion and fear was something else. Recognition? I don't need," she began, but the jacket was already on her. Daniel didn't expect a thank you. He just sat beside her for a second, rubbing his hands to keep warm. Then he stood. "Look, I don't know what happened to you, but you shouldn't be out here alone. Do you need me to call someone? A friend?" "No one's coming," she whispered. Daniel exhaled. "Okay, then I'm not going to leave you here." She looked up, stunned. "I've got a little apartment, 2 streets from here. It's not much, just me and my boy, but it's warm. You can rest. No expectations. I swear, you don't even know me. I don't have to. I know what it's like to need help and not get it." She stared at him for a moment too long, then nodded. He helped her up, slow and careful, like she was made of glass. His apartment was barely 500 square feet. A mattress in the corner, a second-hand couch, and drawings taped to the fridge. His 6-year-old son, Noah, was asleep under a pile of mismatched blankets. "Quiet," Daniel whispered, letting her in. "I'll make some tea." The woman stood awkwardly near the door, his jacket swallowing her frame. She hadn't said a word the whole walk. She watched him boil water and prepare a chipped mug like it was the strangest thing she'd ever seen. He handed her the tea. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Valerie." "I'm Daniel." "That's my boy, Noah." Valerie looked at the sleeping child. Her fingers trembled as she brought the cup to her lips. "Thank you," she whispered. Daniel gave a small smile. "You're safe now." She stayed the night, and the next. By the 3rd day, she'd showered, eaten, and was helping Noah with his drawing. Still quiet, still distant, but different, softer. Daniel didn't ask questions. He figured she'd speak when she was ready. But on the 4th morning, she was gone. No jacket, no goodbye, just a single note on the counter. "Thank you for saving me when I had nothing left. I won't forget this." 2 weeks passed. Daniel went back to hustling food deliveries while juggling Noah's school schedule. He didn't think about Valerie, not really. Just sometimes, when passing that bus stop, he'd glance over. One evening, he was delivering a late-night order to a penthouse suite at the Grand Pearl Hotel, the kind of place that made him feel like a stain on their pristine lobby carpet. He took the elevator up, heart pounding. When the doors opened, a man in a suit greeted him. "Mr. Daniels." Yeah. "This way, please. I'm just delivering." "No need. Miss Wynn is expecting you." "Miss who?" The doors to the suite opened, and there she was, Valerie, wearing a navy blue designer jumpsuit, makeup flawless, her hair pinned like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. The tired woman from the bus stop was gone. In her place stood a billionaire. Daniel's mouth went dry. "You?" She smiled gently. "Told you I wouldn't forget." Daniel stood frozen in the doorway, still clutching the insulated food bag, his mind scrambling to process what was unfolding. Valerie walked toward him slowly, her heels clicking against the marble floor, but her eyes, those same green eyes, were no longer filled with fear or cold. Now, they held something else. Warmth, power, guilt. "You're Valerie." "Wynn?" he asked, nearly choking on her last name. "As in, Wintech, the billionaire? The same one who—" She nodded, a quiet nod that carried more weight than anything else in the room. "I didn't lie to you, Daniel. I just didn't tell you everything. That night, I was in a bad place. I'd walked away from a gala after my fiancé humiliated me in front of everyone. He said I was only valuable because of my last name. I walked 10 blocks in heels, threw my phone in a trash can, and kept going until I had nothing left in me. Daniel blinked. And I just found you. You didn't just find me. You saw me. No cameras. No followers. Just a broken woman on the side of the road. You gave me your jacket and your home without asking for a thing. Daniel looked around the extravagant suite. And now you're back to this. I never left it, she said, voice lowering. But I forgot what mattered. I forgot what people like you remember every single day. He didn't respond right away. He just stood there, overwhelmed, while the man in the suit quietly took the food bag from his hands and exited. Valerie stepped closer. I brought you here because I wanted to say thank you. And because I want to help. Daniel narrowed his eyes. Help how? She motioned to the couch. Please sit. This isn't a charity thing. I'm not trying to fix you. I want to invest in you. He blinked. Invest. I looked you up. Single dad. Working 2 part-time jobs. Dropped out of college when your wife passed. Raising Noah on your own. He stiffened. You looked into my life. I had to, she said softly. I needed to know if the man who saved me was real or just a fluke. He looked down. I'm not perfect. You're not supposed to be. But you're decent. And smart. And strong. You gave me something I couldn't buy. I want to repay you the only way I can. Daniel stood up. Look, Valerie. I didn't help you for something in return. I helped you because I couldn't walk past someone who looked that lost. She stood too. I know that. Which is why you're the kind of person I want to help. Not just with money. With opportunity. He scoffed. You think I've got time to chase dreams? She reached in her purse and pulled out a thin black folder. Inside were the keys to a brand new 2-bedroom apartment and a signed offer letter. I want you to run something for me. A community outreach project I've been too out of touch to manage. Affordable housing, education grants, job assistance programs. I need someone who gets it. Someone who's lived it. Daniel stared at the folder like it was radioactive. You'd be perfect for it, she added. And Noah deserved to grow up somewhere better than where you are now. He shook his head slowly. This is insane. No, this is gratitude. And faith. He didn't say yes. Not yet. He went home that night, kissed Noah on the forehead, and sat awake for hours staring at the cracked ceiling. All his life, he fought tooth and nail for every scrap. Now, a stranger, a billionaire, was offering him a ladder. But it wasn't just about him anymore. The next morning, he accepted. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. Daniel stepped into his new role like he was born for it. Organizing shelter funding, interviewing families, meeting with outreach directors, even delivering food to elderly tenants in underfunded neighborhoods. Valerie was always nearby, not in a cold corporate way, but present, helping, learning, listening. Their bond deepened. Not romantically. Not yet. But something was building. Something real. Daniel had never had someone see him the way she did. And Valerie? She'd never been looked at without expectation, without calculation, just for who she was. One day, she surprised him at one of the shelters he helped restore. He smiled as she approached. Didn't think billionaires made surprise visits to food drives. She raised an eyebrow. Didn't think single dads looked this good in rolled up sleeves. He chuckled. Well, maybe I'm adjusting. She looked at him for a beat. You're not just adjusting, Daniel. You're transforming. His smile faded slightly. So are you. They stood in silence for a moment, surrounded by the scent of warm bread and children's laughter echoing in the background. Then she asked softly, would you have still helped me if you'd known who I was that night? He answered without pause. Absolutely. And that's when she realized she wasn't just grateful anymore. She was falling. But life wasn't done testing them. Because not everyone in Valerie's world was happy she had returned. And one of them was about to make Daniel pay. The first threat didn't come as a warning. It came as sabotage. It was a rainy Wednesday afternoon. Daniel had just wrapped up a city council meeting to push approval for an affordable housing complex when his phone buzzed. A blocked number. Daniel speaking. A distorted voice answered. You don't belong in her world. He froze. Who is this? You think you're special? You're a charity case with a new tie. She'll drop you the moment the guilt wears off. The call ended. Daniel stood there, phone still to his ear, heart pounding. He glanced around. No one suspicious. Just city workers and rain. But inside, something shifted. The next few days brought more. A letter slid under his door, scrawled in bold black ink. Leave now while your dignity is still intact. Someone posted an edited photo online of him with fake criminal charges. It spread like wildfire until Valerie's legal team had it wiped from every site within hours. Still, it rattled him. Daniel wasn't scared for himself. He was scared for Noah, and for Valerie, who had risked her name and reputation to lift him up, only for people in her circle to try and drag him down. But Valerie didn't flinch. The moment she heard about the threats, she canceled her schedule, came straight to his apartment, and sat down on his couch like it was her second home. "I'm so sorry," she said, voice tight with emotion. This is my world. These are the monsters who smile with forks in their pockets. You didn't ask for this." "No," Daniel said, "but I'm not running." She looked up, surprised. "I won't let them ruin what we've built," he added. "They can smear my name all they want. I've been poor. I've been homeless. But I've never been ashamed of who I am." Valerie's lip trembled. "You have no idea how rare that is." He gave a sad smile. "You're worth it." The words hung between them like a fragile truth neither wanted to say out loud, yet both felt it thudding in their chests. The attacks only got worse. One of Valerie's board members, a man named Clive Harrington, held a secret meeting to vote her out of her own company, citing her erratic emotional behavior and questionable personal associations. They called Daniel a risk, an opportunist. They painted him as a street rat who seduced a broken heiress for a ticket out of poverty. And Valerie, she walked into that boardroom in heels sharp enough to cut concrete and dragged every one of them through hell. "You want to talk about reckless decisions?" she barked. "Clive, you embezzled 6 figures last quarter and funneled it into an offshore account under your wife's maiden name. Don't push me." Silence. Dead silence. "I'm not stepping down. And Daniel is not the problem. The problem is you snakes pretending to protect a company you've been bleeding for years. I've built this from the ground up while you sat in glass offices clinking wine glasses over other people's ruin." Her voice lowered. "You come for him again. I'll bury every one of you with the truth." The room emptied quickly after that. Later that night, Daniel found her on a rooftop balcony overlooking the city skyline, arms folded, face calm but tired. "I heard what you did," he said quietly. She glanced at him. "They would have done worse to you if I hadn't. I didn't need saving." "I know," she said, "but I needed to fight. For once, I needed to fight for someone who didn't just want my name or my money." Daniel stepped beside her. "You scare me sometimes." She gave a dry laugh. "Why?" "Because you're so strong it makes me feel like I'm not allowed to break." She turned to him, eyes gentle now. "Daniel, even the strongest people need someone to catch them when they fall." They stood close now, close enough that the tension they'd both been burying for weeks surfaced like a slow-blooming storm. Every second stretched long and aching. And then she reached for his hand. Her fingers were cold, but steady. "Tell me this isn't one-sided." He looked at her, at the woman who changed his world just by needing his help. "It's not," he whispered. "It never was." But just as they found something real, the past came knocking. Noah came down with a fever one night. Daniel rushed him to the ER, panic clawing at his chest. The doctor said it was just a bad flu, but they needed to keep him overnight. Valerie never left his side. She brought books, snacks, even a toy robot. She sat by Noah's bed and read to him until he fell asleep. Then she looked at Daniel and said softly, "I want to be here, with both of you, if you'll let me." Daniel nodded, barely able to speak. But as they stepped out for coffee, a man approached from the shadows of the hospital parking lot. Daniel knew him instantly. Tyler, Noah's late mother's brother. A man who'd vanished years ago and only resurfaced when drama could be stirred. "I heard my nephew's sick," he said, grinning without warmth. "Funny how billionaires get involved when it suits them." Daniel bristled. "What do you want?" Tyler leaned in. "Custody." "What?" "I'm going to court, Dan. You're unstable. You live off handouts. I've got a steady income now, a clean record, and guess what? Judges love concerned uncles with a heartwarming story. You don't belong with a billionaire. And Noah doesn't belong with you." Valerie stepped between them. "Try it," she said, voice sharp as glass. "See how fast I destroy your case." Tyler spat at her feet. "You don't scare me." She smiled coldly. "That's your first mistake." As Daniel held Noah's hand that night, he realized something terrifying. It wasn't just about him anymore. The kindness he'd given that night on the street had started a chain reaction. But the cost of that kindness, of love, was climbing. And he'd have to fight harder than ever to protect what he'd built. Tyler wasn't bluffing. By the end of the week, Daniel received a formal notice from family court. A custody hearing had been scheduled. Tyler had filed an emergency petition claiming Daniel was mentally and financially unfit to raise Noah. Attached were photos of Daniel's old apartment, articles about the viral rumors, and a false affidavit stating that Noah had been left unsupervised multiple times. Daniel read every word like a dagger to the chest. It didn't matter that it wasn't true. In court, perception could be stronger than fact, especially when it came from family. Valerie was livid. She stormed into her lawyer's office and assembled a team within hours. "If he wants a fight," she said through clenched teeth, "we'll give him a war." But Daniel, he was quiet. He stared at the letter on his kitchen table long after Noah had gone to sleep. He felt the old weight pressed down, the same hopelessness that had crushed him after his wife's death, the same fear of losing the only thing he had left. And for the first time in weeks, he doubted. "What if I really don't deserve him?" he whispered one night to Valerie. "What if Tyler's right?" She reached for his hand. "You are Noah's world, Daniel. No one will take that from you. But what if I lose? What if I fail him?" Valerie leaned closer. "Then we fight harder. You didn't save me, so I could just stand by and watch you be destroyed. I'm in this with you. Every step." Daniel exhaled shakily. He was used to carrying pain alone, but maybe this time he didn't have to. The court hearing loomed. Tyler arrived in a sleek suit, flanked by a high-priced attorney who clearly knew how to twist truth into poison. He painted Daniel as unstable, dependent on the whims of a billionaire, and too emotionally volatile to provide stability for a child. He met this woman 2 months ago, Tyler argued, and now he's living in a fancy apartment, running a foundation. But what happens when she leaves? When she gets bored? What happens to Noah then? Daniel clenched his fists. When it was his turn to speak, he stood slowly. Every eye in the courtroom turned toward him. "I never claimed to be perfect," he began. "I've made mistakes. I've struggled. But I have never, ever put my son second. I've worked 2 jobs, skipped meals, and walked miles in the cold, just so he could eat, sleep, and dream in peace. The only thing I've ever failed at is asking for help." He turned toward the judge. "Valerie didn't rescue me. She gave me a chance to stand. I work hard every day. I've rebuilt my life, and I'm not afraid of starting from scratch again if I have to. But please, don't punish my son because I didn't wear a suit to every PDA meeting. All I've ever done is love him." Silence. Then Noah, tiny, brave, and wide-eyed, stood up from the gallery. He clutched a crumpled drawing in his hand and walked to the judge. "My daddy's my hero," he said quietly. "He gave his jacket to a lady in the snow, and he makes me pancakes even when he's tired. I want to stay with him." The judge blinked, clearly shaken. After a long pause, the ruling came down. Custody remained with Daniel. Case dismissed. They walked out of that courtroom with tears in their eyes and triumph in their hearts. But it wasn't joy that hit Daniel the hardest. It was the look Valerie gave him, proud, fierce, and soft all at once. Later that night, when Noah had fallen asleep watching cartoons, Daniel walked out to the balcony, where Valerie stood gazing at the stars. "You stayed," he said quietly. She turned to him. "Of course I did. No one's ever fought for me like that." She smiled. "Maybe that's the problem." Then, in one silent breath, they kissed. It wasn't rushed or fiery. It was slow, aching, full of everything unspoken. Pain, gratitude, respect, and a growing love neither of them had dared to admit until now. When they pulled apart, Valerie whispered, "I've been scared too. Not of you, of how much this matters." Daniel rested his forehead against hers. "Then we're scared together." The next morning, the media exploded. Photos of Valerie and Daniel at the courthouse surfaced, and with them, cruel headlines. "Billionaire heiress falls for ex-delivery man. Cinderella story or calculated move. From the streets to the penthouse. Is it love or leverage?" Valerie's board called another emergency meeting. Sponsors threatened to pull funding. Anonymous investors began selling off shares. The company was bleeding, not financially, but reputationally. And for the first time, Valerie's position was truly at risk. Daniel told her he would walk away. You've done enough, he said. You can't burn your world for me. But Valerie looked him dead in the eyes and said, then I'll build another. She held a press conference the next day, televised across every major network. Standing at a podium with Daniel and Noah at her side, she spoke with unshakable conviction. I owe my life to this man, she began. Not because he's a project or a headline, but because he reminded me what it means to be human. To feel, to care, to stand back up. I don't care if the world understands. This is my truth. She took Daniel's hand in front of the cameras. And I will not be ashamed of loving someone who saved me when I had nothing. The crowd erupted. Some cheered. Some gawked. But none could deny the power in her voice. That night, the internet changed its tune. Hashtag Valerie and Daniel began trending. Articles praised her courage. People shared stories of similar kindness. Donations poured into Daniel's outreach programs. The hate was still there, but it was buried under an avalanche of hope. For the first time, they weren't just fighting back. They were winning. Together. A year later, Daniel stood on the same sidewalk where he'd first found Valerie. Only now, everything had changed. The outreach center behind him bore his name, the Noah Foundation. It had already helped hundreds of families get housing, healthcare, and hope. Valerie was no longer just the heiress. She'd stepped down as CEO, started a new company focused on real social change, and she did it without blinking. They didn't chase headlines anymore. They built something real. But the past had one final echo. Tyler returned. Not for custody, for cash. How about a book deal? He said smugly. Your rags to riches love story. I'll sell it. Unless you buy me out first. Daniel didn't yell. He just smiled. Go ahead, he said. Tell them everything. About the lies. The blackmail. The threats. Valerie's lawyers will love it. Tyler froze. And for the first time, backed down. That evening, Valerie cooked dinner. Badly. The pasta stuck together and the sauce was too salty, but Daniel ate every bite with a smile. You know, she said, wiping her hands, you never asked for anything. Daniel looked at Noah, building Legos nearby. I didn't need to. You gave me everything I thought I'd never have again. Say it, she whispered. He turned to her. I love you. She smiled, eyes wet. I love you too. Months later, under a soft spring sky, Daniel walked Valerie down a garden path. Not in a tuxedo, not on a stage, but in front of 20 people who mattered. No headlines, just vows. Noah stood beside them, holding a ring box, beaming like he'd built the world himself. And when Daniel kissed his new wife, he didn't think about how it started. A jacket, a bus stop, a cold night. He only thought about what it became. Kindness. Family, and a love no money could buy.